So I just got in the Sigma FP full frame L mount mirrorless camera, and this is really quite a unique versatile camera, made in versatile in large part due to the L mount. You can see it here compared to the Panasonic Lumix SH1. Here it is with the Lumix 24-105 native L mount lens. These bigger lenses, like the adapted 16-35 EF lens, and here the 50 1.2 AF lens via the Sigma MC21 adapter, are so big that actually the camera body doesn't balance. Now it balances well and sits flush with its standard 45mm lens that's an f2.8, and it's a very compact, well-built camera. It's really unique in that it really gives equal features to the cinema and the still modes. Really quick startup, as we can see here. I just push on the power button and it starts up within a matter of 2 seconds or so. I'm going to walk you through the menus here just to kind of show you what the menus look like. This will be the first in a 3 or 4 part series evaluating this camera. So the first menu really centers around how you're going to be shooting this camera. Now these menus are all going to be in the cinema mode because I plan on using this camera mostly for cinema and movie making instead of photography. I'll walk you through the photography menus at a separate date. You can control the shutter by either shutter speed or shutter angle. Really nice to be able to have that. And here you can see the exposure compensation. As I'm walking you through the menu, by the way, I am doing this with a Leica M mount adapted onto here. So some of the autofocus settings are not going to be present. You can see the wide range of ISO. This camera does something very unique for photography. It can go to an extremely low ISO range. ISO of, I think, 6 or 7 at its lowest end, which is really great for bright light shooting. I wish it would go that low for photography or for videography, but it doesn't. You can have extended ISO where you can take it all the way up to 102,400. And you can set your auto ISO settings. I've got them here set to range from 100 to 12,800. And you can also set a maximum shutter angle. And I really haven't played with this as of yet, but that could be very useful, especially in low light conditions. Now, there are really 6 different menus submenus under the shooting menu, and you get back out of the submenus by pressing the menu button and then rotating the dial that's just under the shutter release button on the top. This camera will shoot in a DCI crop mode, so you'll get an APS-C size sensor crop if you want to. You can shoot internal cinema DNG 8-bit RAW to an SD card. Now those file sizes are massive. You can only shoot it at 25 and 23.98 frame rates, but the file sizes recorded internally in 4K to a SD card are around 1600 megabits per second. In the full HD, you can actually shoot everything internal in DNG RAW, with the exception of 120 and 100 frames per second. This includes 12-bit, 10-bit, and 8-bit RAW. Here we can see the ability to set your white balance, and you have a variety of different color modes as well. Including uniquely this teal and orange setting. And I apologize for things being a little bit out of focus here as far as that goes. You also have a foveon setting for blue and yellow, as well as a forest green. You can do tonal control, where you can set for your highlights and shadows. And you can do lens optics compensation to compensate for adapted lenses. This only works with adapted Leica lenses for the shading. Now, interestingly, when you adapt a lens, you do not have the ability to have image stabilization. That's only with the native L mount lenses. And you can see here, you can set the autofocus area to either spot or zone autofocus. You can have autofocus magnification during the autofocus. You can have focus peaking, a variety of different ways that you can set things. I have it set so that my center button, when taking video, I push that and it'll do an 8x zoom in just the area that I've indicated in the center part of the screen to allow me to focus. Camera's really nice with the focus peaking to be able to adapt Leica lenses and Canon lenses. But once again, I'd like to see Sigma put the ability to have image stabilization with adapted lenses into this camera, much like we have with the S1H, because at this point really the only lenses that you can use the electronic stabilization on are going to be those native L-mount lenses. You have zebras for a variety of different things, including your exposure, highlights. You can set zebras for skin tones, or you can set zebras for overexposure. You can set different frame lines. You can use this as a director's viewfinder, which is a really unique option. And there's a variety of different ways that you can use the director's viewfinder to simulate high-end cinema cameras. On our last one, we can change, on our last setting under the shooting settings, you can actually change your dials so that you can have the ability to rotate either the front dial or the back dial to control things like aperture, shutter speed, ISO. You can set the direction of the dial rotation, how you want them. Shutter button settings, auto exposure lock settings. They have a really nice prominent auto exposure lock button to be able to lock down your auto exposure. And then once again, half press for autofocus on. I'll move through the play menu pretty quickly, only 2 sub-menus here. You can take your raw photos and develop those in the camera to a variety of different settings for your color modes and whatnot. From a system standpoint, you can actually set the menus to look more like a still life camera when you're in the cinema mode, or a pure cinema camera. You have this custom QS button that allows you to set a variety of different things, and you can actually change that custom QS screen to give you a variety of different settings. Different shooting modes, you can set your record button settings. The touch operation, this is not a touch screen to navigate menus, it's only a touch screen for focus. You can control your sounds on the camera here as far as your shutter, record, autofocus volume, and whatnot. This is purely a mirrorless camera with no mechanical shutter. So it's only electronic shutter, and we'll test some of the rolling shutter both with photography and videography. Nice level inside the camera. You can do a pixel refresh. You can change your LCD settings. Now, interestingly, when you change any of these settings, it's important to hit the OK button. If you just hit the menu button, you're going to go back and it won't store your settings. Of note also, when talking about the movie files, the .mov files that you can record out of this camera, the 4K shoots at 440 megabits per second, which is really a robust bit rate for 4K. And the full HD all-eye actually shoots from 440 megabits per second for 100 and 120 frames per second, all the way to 140 for the 24 and 25 megabits per second. Anyway, this camera looks to be really very, very nice, very portable, and something that I think I will look forward to testing over time here and see if it'll give a really good option for portability in a small video setup. Thank you so much for watching.